In the heart of Transylvania, there exists a place where shadows seem to move, where the trees stretch their limbs like gnarled fingers, reaching out to snatch at anything that dares cross its path. This place is known as the Hoia-Baciu Forest, and it has earned a reputation for being one of the most haunted and mysterious forests in the world. To those who know its secrets, it's a place of terror, a place where reality bends and time itself seems to warp, like a cruel trick being played on the very fabric of existence. The locals, especially those who live in nearby villages, know better than to venture too close to the forest edge after dark. Some speak of its whispers, careful not to invoke the dark forces that are said to dwell there. They call it the Bermuda Triangle of Romania, a place where people disappear without a trace, and where strange lights dance across the sky. But the truth of what lies within the forest is far darker than any simple tale of ghosts or of supernatural happenings. The forest has a history that goes back centuries, a history that begins with a disappearance. A single shepherd named Baki. One day, he took his flock into the woods and never returned. The year was 1800 and Baki was well known in the area. He was trusted, respected. His flock of 200 sheep followed him into the thick, twisting trees, their bleats echoing as they disappeared into the forest. But Baki, he did not return. Not that day, not the next, and not for weeks. The villagers, of course, searched the forest, calling his name into the eerie stillness. But the forest was vast and the trees were thick. No footprints were found, no trace of him remained. The sheep were scattered, seemingly driven off by something unseen, leaving the forest silent in its wake. It was as if the earth itself had swallowed Baki whole. And then came the lights. Bright, eerie orbs of light, green, blue, red, flickered high above the trees, floating like will-o-wisps in the distance. Some said they were simply reflections, the result of fog in the moonlight. But the locals knew better. These lights didn't belong to nature. They didn't belong to the world of the living. They moved with a grace that was unnatural, as though they had a mind of their own. Some of the more adventurous souls from the villages tried to get closer, eager to understand, to find out what these strange lights really were. But as they ventured deeper into the forest, their fears grew. They saw things, figures, shapes, shadowy movements just out of sight. They heard whispers on the wind, voices calling their names from just beyond the trees. But when they turned around, no one was there. The forest seemed to press in on them, as if the trees themselves were closing rings, trapping them. Some returned, shaken to their core, claiming that the lights weren't the only thing they had seen. They spoke of figures that weren't human, tall, dark shapes moving between the trees, their eyes glowing faintly in the dark, shadows that seemed to follow them, no matter how fast they ran. But the most terrifying of all was the woman in white. She was seen by many who dared enter the forest at night, standing at the edge of the trees, her long white gown billowing in the wind. Her face, a twisted mask of pain and anguish, was enough to stop anyone in their tracks. Her eyes, those glowing eyes, pierced through the darkness, and her presence seemed to freeze the very air around her. Some said she was a lost soul, someone who had wandered into the forest long ago and never found her way out. Others believed she was something darker, something that had been waiting for centuries. Those who were foolish enough to approach her reported that she never moved, never spoke. She simply watched, her unblinking eyes following them as they drew closer. And when they turned to leave, when they thought she was gone, they would look back and find her standing closer, always closer, until they could no longer bear the weight of her gaze. Some say that she was the spirit of someone who had disappeared in the forest. Others believe she is a manifestation of the forest itself, a physical embodiment of terror that resides there. But what is certain is that she is not a spirit that rests. She lingers, always waiting, always watching. And then there were the shadows, tall humanoid shapes flickering between the trees. Some say they were the spirits of those who had vanished in the forest over the years, their forms now twisted and malformed by whatever dark forces haunt the woods. Others say they were something older, something more dangerous, creatures that have made their forest their home for as long as anyone can remember. These shadows were not like ordinary ghosts. They were real. People saw them clearly, the dark forms looming just beyond the light of their campfires, slipping between the trunks of trees as if they were one with darkness itself. Those who dared to approach them reported a coldness unlike any other, and a natural chill that seemed to freeze them in place, their breath coming in ragged gasps. It was not just the lights and the shadows that troubled the people of the nearby villages. The forest had a strange power over time itself. People ventured too far into the trees would often return disoriented, unable to account for hours they had lost. They would swear they'd only been in the forest for a few hours, only to find that an entire day had passed. Some even claimed that time itself seemed to stretch or contract while they were inside the forest, that they had been trapped in a moment that felt both eternal and fleeting. One such story tells of a shepherd who entered the forest one afternoon, never to return. His family searched for him for weeks, but it wasn't until many years later that they found him standing in the same spot where he had vanished. He hadn't aged a day. The world around him changed, the village he knew was gone, and the people he once knew had moved on. Time had lost its grip on him. As the years passed, the village of Hoia itself began to wither. Once a thriving place, it became abandoned, its houses empty, its streets silent. People fled, too terrified to stay, leaving behind the crumbling remnants of their homes. The forest had claimed its due. The village was no longer safe. Hoia-Baciu had become a place of nightmares, a place that no one dared enter. Yet still, the forest stands, silent and watchful, a place where the laws of nature don't apply, where the veil between the living and the dead grows thin. Those who venture in, still to this day, report the same eerie sensations. Unseen eyes upon them, whispers in the wind, and a sense of being watched, even when no one is around. If you find yourself near Hoia-Baciu Forest, standing at its edge, staring into the depths of its dark embrace, know this: some places are not meant to be explored. Some forests are not meant to be entered, because in Hoia-Baciu, the shadows are never far behind, and whatever dwells in the heart of the forest, it doesn't want you to leave.